Hey bookworms.
I'm BookMouse.
And I'm BookKitty. And this is our BookNook.
This week, join us as we discuss our thoughts on The War Queen by JM Robison.
JM Robison submitted the book directly to us to be reviewed on our channel. And I feel deeply honored for that opportunity. The author describes it as an adult fantasy romance with a strong female heroine.
Strangely enough, we have finally found a book that BookKitty and I did not 100% agree on.
So stay tuned and find out why. So when this book was first suggested to me, I first saw the cover, as one usually does, but not always, and I was really drawn in. The cover is very colorful. It's not colorful in the fact that it has a lot of colors, but that the colors that are on it pop dynamically, and it made me very curious about this woman with the beautiful red beads in her hair, but it says War Queen. Like, she seemed to look pretty cleaned up for somebody called a War Queen.
I did like that it was a strong profile picture of the War Queen, and it did have presence. Right off the top, the cover has presence. Mm-hmm. So that was a nice, it would have caught me in a bookstore.
I enjoyed the book. It was a pretty short read, so it's about 200 pages. The pronunciations in this book I could do a whole video on, by the way. Some of these things, it took me... It was actually about halfway through the book, I was like, wait, I actually have to be pronouncing these because I have to do a video on this. It's got political intrigue. Mind you, it takes place on a world that has 2 moons, so it's clearly not Earth. It is about 315 years after the reign of kings, where the people of 2 countries overthrew their kings and said, nah, monarchy ain't for us, and they started electing people. Right. Altarn is the head of state in her country, and Kaelin is the head of his state, his country, or head of state of his country, I think is how they put it. Basically, they're a 3-year term president. He's on his 2nd term. She's on her first term. She's been in the position for a year. They're on the brink of war, so they think, so she thinks. She wants to take her country to war because he's proposing a friendly exchange, and she doesn't take it that way. She doesn't take it as friendly. She thinks he's going to
take over her country. He's making a land grab, I think is what
he's making a land grab. And so she's trying to get the country to agree with her that they're going to go to war with his country. And then some other problem threatens both of them, as well as the 3rd country that's actually in between theirs, which still has a king. Even more like curiosity here. Like, to have 3 countries, you've got one, no kings. Adamantly no kings. One in the center with a king, and they're still okay with their monarchy. And then one on the end that's the same way as the first. So it's really interesting. A lot of books we read have combat that we know exists. They have weapons that we know exist. They have swords, maces, spears, catapults. The other thing that's like a catapult that's not a catapult that I can't think of right now. All these things that we already know exist, and we have a basic understanding of how they work. In this book, they have these things called shorns. They're like giant metal fans that these people fight with, and they're great. I just like how she invents new warfare for her book that's in a whole new world. It makes sense. They wouldn't have the same stuff.
They wouldn't have what we have.
Yeah.
That was a nice change to make the effort to come up with something that would be unique to that world.
Yes.
It has a lot to offer. The political setup, the intrigues, their own little ideas of how they're going to get their information from the other side, purposeful mistaken identities. It had a lot to offer. I will admit, there were some things about the book I liked. She is the first female head of state for this country. In order to be eligible to serve in any kind of political or governing role, you have to serve in the military. So even in this world, women can serve in the military. And she did her time. She did her 2 years minimum time.
And it's actually quite normal for women to serve in the military. It's not even looked at as odd or uncommon.
True. Women in politics for her country is very uncommon. She is the first head of state.
And this is something she was working toward since she was a teenager. She'd been wanting to do it because she saw how men look at women and how they treat women.
And she wanted to be able to show that in some arenas, they are equals and they need to be respected. But I did struggle with the book too. I normally can sink myself into a book and pick a character to identify with. So I can roll with the story and feel things from their point of view. And I just had a really hard time attaching myself to any of the characters. I think there was a lot going on in the book, and I had trouble keeping up with this head of state, that head of state, this king, this god, this angel, wannabe god. The priests, the priestesses, the rangers,
because most of the chapters are from Kaelin or Altar's point of view, but every now and then you get a chapter where it's like the priestesses or it's some other person with something else going on in the other part of the world.
I did have trouble trying to keep timelines and facts straight in my head of who's what.
Especially with so many lies.
Yes, there were a lot of lies. So trying to keep track of who said what, when, where, and why was...
And what was already determined to be a lie, what I think is a lie, and what definitely wasn't a lie.
So, that was a little bit hard for me. All in all, it was well written. The story flowed. If a story's really choppy, and I have trouble, making transitions, I won't finish it. Like I said, I just had a really hard time getting into the story. And I will admit, midterms, a lot of stuff going on right now, it may be me. In a month, I may pick this story back up, reread it, and go, oh, yeah. So that may be just me. It may just be a theme and the book was uncomfortable for me.
I mean, I don't remember. I would say you're BookMouse. I mean, you're a little on the shy side.
Yeah.
And I can't really say that there was anybody in that book that was on the shy side. Even Lauren, who had a reason to be shy and antisocial, wasn't all that shy. She was just tormented.
Right.
So I can understand why you wouldn't really relate to any of them. Because I related to the War Queen herself. I noticed a lot of parallels between her and her personality traits, my personality traits, and some of her inner thoughts. Some of her interpersonal struggle has some parallels to some of my interpersonal struggle. I'm trying to find myself and who I am within this goal that I have.
The only thing I came close to relating to is at the point where she has a confidant that she unburdens herself to on occasion. And at one point, she had mentioned that it's hard to make the hard decisions and still have people like you. She wants to be liked by the people. Sometimes it's hard to learn that you can't have 100% of the people like you 100% of the time. It just cannot happen. I think I understood that a little bit. I can kind of see where she's coming from with that because I struggle with don't be mad at me. I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to be upset with me. But at the same time, sometimes you have to disappoint someone in order to take care of yourself. And she's having to learn that.
Or disappoint a group of people in order to do what's best for your country.
Right.
On a grander scale.
On a grander scale. You do see that a little bit. That growth, that learning.
She starts to grow for sure. She's got 2 more years in power.
Yep. And a chance to be reelected.
Yeah.
So it's not that I didn't like the book or hated the book. I don't hate books. All books are precious.
You're precious.
That may be just the point. Sometimes the mood that you are in, the place that you are in your life at that moment, may make a book resonate more or less. And I think that may be what happened to me. So I think I am going to make a promise to myself to revisit this book and maybe drop a little side note down the line, what happened when I read it.
Definitely let us know.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want to know what you thought of the end, too. There are times when authors will drop things throughout and then not wrap up anything until the end because they want to leave us in suspense. And don't get me wrong, I love it.
I mean, that's
sometimes.
a technique.
Sometimes I much prefer to get little bits wrapped up as you go. And this one kind of goes step by step in a good way. Not in a hold your hand kind of way, but in a good way, I think.
And the nice thing is, this is a standalone book.
Yes.
So you're not left hanging at the end going,
No.
but. It is a standalone, self-contained book. So that
yeah, and like
nice.
I said, it does wrap it up nicely. As we mentioned before, Altarn, she's a feminist. I mean, she is the first female head of state. She's been wanting to be a female head of state since she was a teenager, just to prove that women could do it. So like, she's a super feminist, for sure. She's constantly like calling men out and like, oh, I can't travel on the road by myself because why? You travel by yourself. Oh, but men take advantage of women. And she's like, yeah? And I can't defend myself? And I think a lot of us women do ask that question a lot. The only criticism that I have on the book is maybe that was mentioned a little too much. It kind of became a little of a broken record because she was saying it almost the same way every time. And sometimes and we do this too, even women who are feminists. Sometimes, because we're so centered on proving that we can do what men can do, we read into things that aren't actually feminine related. Like, they're not telling you can't do it because you're a female. There's another reason. And she does jump to conclusions sometimes when it's not about that. But I just think she just said it too many times. That's all. I mean, we knew the character was pretty feminist-centered from the beginning. You know, first 2 times, like, okay, I get that. But then she'd be like, but I was the first female head of state. And I'm like, we know that. We're proud of you. Don't worry. We're proud of you. And I let that slide because it is kind of like the main theme of the book. I mean, it's about women being able to run a country. And really, I think it even delves a little deeper than that. It is more about the personal journey on finding balance specifically for women, finding a balance between your femininity and your strength. Which is often confused because people are like, oh, well, strength is masculine. No, it's not. Different kinds of strength may be masculine. Yes. Different kinds of strength may be feminine. I think what it really boils down to is she's trying to find a way to live a healthy, balanced, feminine life.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Yeah. And I think that came through pretty solidly from the author. So thanks, JM Robison, for creating this book that I enjoyed so much, and that we're going to try and give Mouse another try at enjoying. But you know what? If she doesn't, I'm not going to judge her. Not going to judge her. I'm a little surprised that this is the book that we disagreed on, but
it was bound to happen eventually.
That's why we have the 2 of us here together on this one channel.
Yes.
So I think in light of that, maybe I give it 2 and you give it 1, and we give it a total of 3 paws up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for joining us today.
Next week, we'll be taking a look at Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins, book 1 in the series with the same name.
This has been BookMouse
and BookKitty.
Signing off.
If you missed us last week, go ahead and take a look up here at A Discovery of Witches. And if you want to go back to our first video, go ahead and click down here and take a look at Feed by M.T. Anderson. So as always, don't forget to subscribe below so that you don't miss